A new analysis found the National Post rewrites wire stories to tilt coverage in favor of Israel. The paper did this by including loaded anti-Palestinian language, omitting the context of occupation, and framing stories around Israeli viewpoints. For those of you who don't know what a wire story is, it's basically an article published by a service like the Associated Press or the Canadian Press that different newspapers all rerun. They are a decades-old way to quickly and efficiently distribute national and international stories to newsrooms that otherwise wouldn't have the resources to cover such a scope. Now, a new investigation found the National Post was editing Canadian Press articles written since October 7th and adding charged words and phrases, where before there had been more neutral descriptors. This investigation was done by two groups, Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East and Tech for Palestine. And so the National Post would take terms like Palestinian militants or fighters and replace that with terrorists. And pro-Palestine was changed to anti-Israel. But the National Post went even further and added loaded language that wasn't there previously. There were at least 20 definitive instances of a form of the word terror being added to a CP article that originally didn't contain it. So why does this even matter? Canadian press is already under scrutiny for the pro-Israel bias of its reporting. The edits from the National Post added even more anti-Palestinian bias to these stories. The National Post seems very intent on enforcing a strict editorial line, one that would not be tolerated for the coverage of other issues. This is more disturbing proof of how the Palestine exception has become the norm in Canadian establishment media. And there's another reason why this should disturb you. So when an article is altered, the piece is severed from the wire service's updates. This means when CP adds new information to an article, that content is not automatically updated to the versions that exist out there. And this is a feature of all wire services. It prevents overwriting the edits that a specific outlet has made to match space needs, house style, or in some cases, editorial slant. So if the National Post switches militant to terrorist, readers aren't going to see any updates to an article if CP makes some. Again, you can read the full investigation at breachmedia.ca.